Okay, in today's video, we are going to be looking at this rather emotional poem called Father to Son. This is part of the Hornbill textbook written by English poet Elizabeth Jennings. What does the theme of Father to Son deal with? Now, it deals with the anguish of a father who does not have a great relationship with his son. He feels, in fact, that his grown-up son no longer understands him, and he's also not able to relate to the world of his son. तो एक तरह से बाप और बेटे के बीच में जो दूरी है, उसके बारे में ये कविता है. Okay, the father is also very bitter about the generation gap that has developed between the son and the father. There is no understanding between them, and I felt that the poem is extremely emotional. It brings out the anguish of the father. Okay, all these words are words which you can use in your answers. Of course, the entire notes and the question and answer are also written in the PDF. So we also come to know that he's making an attempt to mend fences, in the sense that कि शायद दूरियां कम हो जाए, एक तरह से पैचअप हो जाए, लेकिन एक तरह का थोड़ा ईगो भी है, क्योंकि बाप एक तरह से forgiveness की बात करता है, that I'll be able to forgive him, और even बेटा thinks that he is in the right, it is the father who is in the wrong, और इसकी वजह से उनकी दूरियां एक तरह से कम नहीं होती. That's what the poem is all about. So even though the poem is largely from the point of view of the father, it also says a lot, tells us a lot about the father's character and the relationship between the father and the son. The poem is titled Father to Son. So in that sense, it's almost like a message that the father is giving to the son, though the son also speaks. We get to know what the son feels towards the end of the poem in the last stanza. Okay, so let's go through the poem. In the first stanza itself, I do not understand this child. He's making it very clear कि मैं इस बच्चे को, मैं अपने बेटे को समझ नहीं पा रहा हूं. I do not understand this child. Though we have lived together now in the same house for years. हम एक ही छत के नीचे, एक ही घर के अंदर काफी सालों से एक साथ रह रहे हैं, लेकिन मैं इस बच्चे को नहीं जानता हूं. I do not understand this child. I know nothing of him. मैं इसके बारे में कुछ नहीं जानता. I don't understand anything of him. So try to build up a relationship from how he was small. He was when small. So there is an immediate flashback. He's remembering how he was small. And when he was small, he was able to forge a relationship with his son. But now when he has grown up, when there are influences of the outside world on his son, he's no longer able to have a good connect, a good healthy relationship with his son. So it's basically a reference to the communication gap that is there between the father and the son. There is mutual lack of understanding. There is lack of tolerance. There is lack of acceptance, right? So at least from the father's point of view, and the father seems to believe that, I don't know this child. So in the sense that, as though the galti child ki hai, ki child badal gaya hai, jiski wajah se baap uske sath correlate nahi kar pa raha hai. Okay. So it's also a very, in one line, if I have to say, the relationship between the father and the son has broken down. It is no longer a relationship that is working. But the father has not given up hope. He talks about trying to build a relationship. So try to build up a relationship. He still hopes that one day he will be able to have the same kind of relationship that he had when the son was a small child. Okay, so the poem is the father's inability also, this is important, to come to terms with the young adult, because the child is now an adult, the son is now an adult. So he's unable to come to terms that, the child now has a mind of his own, right? And he's no longer the father's little boy. He's no longer the father's small boy in that sense. So एक तरह का conflict है, जो कि हर generation के बीच में होता है, हर माता पिता और बच्चे के बीच में होता है. You must be also feeling how you deal with your parents. Your parents would be having a slightly different perspective, right? So that kind of makes it more intriguing. It also makes it very interesting. Okay, so he's the father. मैं क्या बोलता हूँ कि he's almost trying to press the reset button. वो होता है ना कि sometimes you press the reset button to say okay 0-0 से शुरू होगा तो ठीक हो जाएगा. So he's almost trying to go back in time and think that he can go back and forge the same relationship with the son of today as he was the son of many years ego. So अगर आप टोन की बात करें, किस तरह का आपको फीलिंग आता है, इट्स अ टोन ऑफ हेल्पलेसनेस, और इससे काफी दुख होता है. द फादर इज ऑलमोस्ट वेरी हेल्पलेस इन हिज tone in this entire poem. The seed that I spent, the seed I spent, or yet have I killed, the seed I spent or sown it where the land is his and none of mine. So यहां पर सीड का क्या मतलब है? सीड का मतलब है बीज. बीज कहां से आता है? एग्रीकल्चर से. सो एक तरह से एग्रेरियन इमेजरी का इस्तेमाल किया है एलिजाबेथ जेनिंग्स ने, और वे कहती हैं कि क्या मैंने उस बीज को मार दिया है. ओके, बीज मतलब which was the father's own seed, which was in the form of his son. So he wonders if he has killed the seed that he sowed somewhere, and where the land now belongs to the son and does not belong to the father. He sowed the seed, but the land now belongs to the son and it does not belong to the father. Again, kind of conveying the communication gap, the generation gap between the father and the son, the distancing between the father and the son. So the father wonders if he has lost his child who he raised, or did he provide his son a way which was just a way for his son and not for the father. You know, जो रास्ता दिखाया, क्या वह सिर्फ बेटे के लिए था, और वो रास्ते, उस रास्ते पर फादर इज नॉट एबल टू वॉक बिकॉज देयर इज नो कोरिलेशन. In that sense, we speak like strangers. हम अजनबियों की तरह बात करते हैं. We speak like people who do not know each other. There is no sign of understanding in the air. कि हम एक दूसरे को समझ नहीं पाते हैं. That we do not kind of, you know, we are not able to empathize or understand each other's point of view, right? So he's almost like, you know, it's almost a commentary on whether there was any mistake in the kind of upbringing he did of his son, right? This child is built to my design, in the sense that, you know, ये मेरा product है, तो मैंने इसको design किया था. He's built to my design, yet what he loves I cannot share, in the sense that, you know, he raised his child with the proper kind of upbringing, the proper kind of education and manners built to his design. जिस तरह से मैं समझता था बिल्कुल ठीक होगा, the way I thought it will be absolutely perfect. Yet what his son loves, the father is not able to share, because there is no correlation. There is a gap. So he's not able to share what his son loves. What his son loves is something which the father is not able to understand and not able to share the same kind of love. That shows that there is no common interest, there is no mutual interest, there is no common ground. Okay, yahan tak samajh mein aa gaya? Aage chalein. Sorry. Silence surrounds us. I would have him prodigal. What does he say in the third stanza? Silence is obviously a strong theme of this particular poem, a very powerful theme. Why is it a powerful theme? Because the two of them are not on talking terms. So what is the end result? The end result is silence. So silence surrounds us. It's a very, very, very deep line. Silence surrounds us. I would have him prodigal. Prodigal का मतलब है someone who is a spendthrift, someone who is a bit of a wasteful kind of a character. Returning to his father's house. So the moment he calls him prodigal, आपको पता चल जाता है कि the father is taking an upper hand. हमेशा parents upper hand लेते हैं ना. So he's calling him, you know, wasteful. The way parents call, you know, बेवकूफ है, कुछ नहीं मता, आलसी है, निकम्मा है, कुछ नहीं पढ़ता, kind of thing, right? So he calls him prodigal. Returning to his father's house, the home he knew, rather than see him make and move his world. What is he saying? So the father is calling the son a prodigal, who is a spendthrift and a wasteful kind of a person, but he would rather have him return to the house rather instead of making and moving around in the world. कि जो घर, the house that he knows, जिस घर से वे एक तरह से his familiarity is there with the house, he would want him to come back to that house instead of going elsewhere and trying to make a home somewhere else and struggle in the process. Okay, now I would forgive him too, shaping from sorrow a new love. This is another important line. Third stanza is the most important stanza. I would forgive him too. Who do you forgive? Someone who you think has committed a mistake. है ना? You would say, मैं तुमको माफ कर दूंगा. What does it mean? It means that you are immediately kind of assuming कि गलती तुमसे हुई है, लेकिन मैं तुमको माफ कर दूंगा. तो you take a superior position. That's what the father is doing right now. Okay, so he says, I would forgive him too. right? Shaping from sorrow in new love. So he says that it shows that he's convinced that it is his son who is in the wrong. The father is not in the wrong. There is a sense of ego at play here. मैंने गलती नहीं की, गलती उसकी है, लेकिन मैं उसको माफ कर दूंगा. So it gives me a superior, a sense of high, a sense of superiority. The father puts him in that superior position of someone who will be able to forgive, who has the large heart, in his opinion, to forgive, to pardon, right? But that from that forgiveness and the current sorrowful position. What is a sorrowful position? Where the two are not even able to communicate with each other and understand each other. From that sad situation, from that sorrowful situation, he wants to begin a journey of love. समझ में आ गया? Last stanza. Father and son, we both must live on the same globe and the same land. He speaks, I cannot understand myself. Why anger grows from grief. We each put out an empty hand, longing for something to forgive. Forgive word once again being repeated in the fourth stanza. Now, what does this fourth stanza make? Now, this stanza makes an admission. It makes a confession of sorts that both of them have to live on the same earth and the same land, and therefore the differences between them must be resolved and put to an end, right? We both must live on the same globe and the same land. हमको इसी धरती पे रहना है, साथ में रहना है, so why not kind of live together in an amicable manner? अच्छी तरह से साथ में रह पाएं. He speaks. Now you hear what the son has to say. He speaks, I cannot understand myself why anger grows from grief. So he's also in the same, on the same page as the father. He says that when he speaks, he cannot understand himself. I cannot understand myself. He cannot understand why there is an anger, which is the product of grief, which means sadness or sorrow. So he cannot understand the own grief, that the whole feeling, emotion of grief that the son is feeling, right? So the son also has resentment towards his father, but he's not able to articulate himself. Whereas the father is also equally confused. He also doesn't know, where he lost that kind of, that gap with the son actually develops. So when the son speaks for the first time, it is very clear that both of them are equally frustrated in this relationship, but both of them want to make a fresh beginning, right? At least the father definitely wants to do. So both father and son put a hand towards each other. But what is the adjective used for the hand? Empty hand. Empty hand does not mean that you want to shake hands in friendship and love once again. It's an empty hand, right? Each one of them longing for something to forgive. Both of them want to forgive each other, which again comes from the same thing, that both of them think that this other person is at fault. Meri galti nahi hai. And how do you make relationships work? Relationships work when you have the heart to say, I am sorry. I made a mistake and I'm sorry for it. Okay, it needs the big heart to say, I am sorry. If you constantly think that the other person is at fault and expect him to say sorry, then relationships cannot blossom. Relationships cannot be successful. Okay, so neither wants to take the first step and ask for forgiveness. They want the other, they want to forgive, but they're not willing to ask for forgiveness. So the differences in a sense seem to remain. That's how the kind of slightly abstract ending of the poem seems to suggest. The only positive is that both of them reach out to each other in a limited manner. In a limited manner, they reach out to each other. Now, what are the poetic devices that have been used? One, of course, is alliteration. Silence surrounds us in the third stanza. Seed I spent or sown in the second stanza. Speak like strangers. That's another example of alliteration. Shaping from sorrow, another example. Anaphora is another poetic device which has been used, where same globe and same land, in the sense that the same word being repeated, in this case same, right, at the beginning of successive phrases for poetic effort. That's another poetic device which Elizabeth Jennings has used. Please look at the notes. Please also go through the question and answer, so that This poem will be clear in the sense that all the different aspects, whatever different kinds of questions you can be asked, everything is covered in the notes and the question and answers. Thank you very much. I hope the poem is clear to you. Thank you very much for watching.